Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vegas Legal Magazine podcast. I'm Mark Fierro, here with Tyler Morgan, publisher of Vegas Legal Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our guest today, Ryan Helmick, is one of the rising stars, a local criminal defense and DUI attorney. Helmick has been recognized as one of the top 40 under 40 for multiple years by national trial lawyers. He's also been selected in multiple years as one of the 10 best attorneys by the American Institute of DUI Attorneys. Among his other honors, has been named as one of the 10 best under 40 by the American Institute of Criminal Law Attorneys. Helmick works on some of the most interesting and high-profile cases in Las Vegas and has an extraordinary track record of achieving justice for his clients. Thanks so much for joining us today, Ron.
Thank you for having me.
And you rack up these cases and you have some pretty good outcomes.
Well, you know, they come my way, and I try to do the best I can, of course.
He's a hard-working young man, I'll tell you that. So one of the things that just came up in the last couple of weeks, Channel 13 had a multi-part story on you and your client, and one of the most interesting facets of the law that's changing right now, and it was a case of alleged shaken baby syndrome, what's been termed junk science, that could have put your client in prison for the rest of her natural life. Tell us about the way the case went.
Well, the case had went on for many years. First, my client's baby, I guess I can say her name now. Christina Curlis is my client, and she had lost her baby, and she hadn't been charged for probably 8 months to a year. They had a detective come to the hospital at the time that her baby was literally dying. All this was unexpected. And was interviewed by the detectives and so forth, and that was it. And so the detective said, we'll get back to you, something like that, right? In any event, they did get the autopsy back, and they ruled it as a homicide. And so that's when the detective contacts me and said, hey, we need to take your client into custody. And so it was a horrible day because I had to go with her and her husband, and we had to meet the detective in the back of CCDC, the jail, and see her get the cuffs put on her when we all are sitting there knowing that she's innocent. Even before this, had her take a lie detector test, passed with flying colors. The lie detector, the polygrapher basically, had followed up on this case with me for like 2 years, because that's how invested he was, because he didn't want to see this person go down. That's how much he believed that she was innocent. And so in any event, COVID hit, slowed things down, but we were going through the process of the criminal case. We did the preliminary hearing. The coroner testified, and she said that the cause of death was shaken baby syndrome, that the baby was violently shaken to death. And so she admitted that on the stand. And so we knew what theory they were going under right from the beginning. And so we knew, therefore, how to prepare our defense. So we got some of the best experts in the country once we got to the jury trial stage, and every single one of them said that the baby died of natural causes. But we had one take the most deepest dive of them all, Dr. Evan Matches out of San Diego. He went into the coroner's office. They gave him everything that he needed. He took it back to his own lab in San Diego and did much more research into every aspect of it, and found that this baby had the sickle cell trait. Now that was already known, but under the microscope he was able to see that actually this sickling of the cells spread throughout the body. It's rare that somebody with the sickle cell trait actually gets sickled cells, but this was one of those rare occasions. And so he was able to show that the baby died of natural causes. And then you have the factual aspect of the case, which just didn't make any sense at all. And so I can, break that down for you as well.
The amazing thing about this is a controversy that's going on across the country. Mm-hmm. Women are languishing in prison, spending the rest of their lives in prison because one doctor said that there's no other reason that a baby ends up with blood behind their eyes, with bruising the brain and swelling.
Yeah.
And then he recants himself And nobody does anything to let any of these women off. It's complete, total junk science. But the DA in this case, Wolfson, had the guts to go ahead and turn himself around on the case.
He did, and we're certainly thankful for that, that he did the right thing and dismissed this case. So that was the ultimate result that you could get. You know, we didn't want to have to go to trial and put her through all that stuff and see the pictures of her dead child, right? It'd be horrific and emotional and all those things. Do we believe that we would have won? Absolutely. But the fact that it got dismissed a week before the trial, it was just huge. And to go back to the other things that you mentioned, you're right. Here's the problem, is that they rubber stamp these things. And you can't do that. Because these doctors at the hospital will get a baby that comes in, and the baby will appear to have been abused in some way after they do the scans. Right? They see the brain bleed, they see the retinal hemorrhages, which means the bleeding behind the eyes. They see the swelling of the brain, and immediately they say, "Well, this had to be physical abuse." They use the word non-accidental trauma now. They stay away from shaken baby syndrome. This coroner didn't, which I'm glad she didn't. I wanted her to say that, so I'm happy that we kind of locked her right into where we wanted her. But now they go with non-accidental trauma, call the detectives in. Here's a mother and father already concerned about their baby that's dying. Now here come the detectives, trotting their way in and saying, "Hey, let's have a little chat over here." When I would want to say, "Get the hell out of this room. My baby's dying. I didn't do anything wrong," right? So they get the detectives involved without really diving into it on a significant level, okay? And so that's one of the issues. It's just rubber stamp, okay, child abuse, somebody did it. It's probably the last person with the baby, so let's put it on her, okay? Or let's put it on him. So they don't take the time.
Can you go back and give us like the quick summary of the facts as to what led to the charges of homicide?
Yeah, the summary of the facts are basically that the morning that the baby's name is Josiah, the morning that Josiah became unresponsive, Christina woke up probably around 7 a.m. Baby Josiah sleeping in the bed with her and her baby daddy at the time. And there's no issues with regard to the baby. Now, during that evening, the baby wasn't latching as well as it normally did in regard to getting the breast milk and so forth. So anyway, she gets up, she gets ready for work, she gets the other kids, so she's got like 3 or 4 kids. This is including Josiah. Gets the other kids ready, takes them to school, pumps some breast milk, puts it in the fridge. And then the father wakes up, and he's got the other kids there, the other 2 kids there, the twins. And so he goes and makes them some cereal, comes back, gets Josiah, changing his diaper. And then all of a sudden, the baby's just not acting right. He's like, he keeps nodding off and going back to sleep. And he's like, well, you've been sleeping for a while. And so then he starts freaking out because he's unresponsive. And so then he's kind of putting water on him, trying to do what he can to wake him up. Now, he's not shaking him or anything like that. So calls Christina. Christina says, "Call 911." Christina rushes back to the house, but the baby literally goes into cardiac arrest at the house. And he doesn't know this, of course, what's happening. He just sees the baby's having some major, major issues. Then the baby goes into cardiac arrest again on the way to the hospital, and then I believe one more time when it was going to when the baby was going from Summerlin Hospital to UMC, and so when you have these cardiac arrests, they cause other medical issues. All they do is make the situation worse, as you can imagine. So what they had. Why they chose Christina was because the night before she had Josiah, and Josiah's dad was at the gym, and so she's in the house watching cartoons with the baby, She's taking a video of it, and this is all good for us, of course. Taking a video of it, singing the Barney song, just having a good time with her baby. You can tell she's a good mother, right? And then the next video she takes is the baby and his little boppy watching TV. And then another photo after that is about 7 minutes later, and the baby's in the boppy asleep, and head down. And so the detectives say, well, the baby looks off. That's something happened within this time period.
Just by looking at the video.
Just by looking at the video. But what they didn't realize is they thought from the time of the video to the time that the picture where they said the baby looks off was, I don't know, an hour, right? But then there's this other picture that we had showed them, that now you turn that hour into 7 minutes. So now you're saying, this is our position, so you're saying all of a sudden she just freaks out in 7 minutes and decides to shake her baby so violently that she ultimately causes it to become unresponsive and causes all these injuries and causes the baby to die. So it made zero sense factually at all. And it was really, to me, it was just the dumbest thing, because the baby was asleep for about 2 minutes, and the lighting was different. If I take a picture of you from right here, then I walk over here and I take a picture from you, the shadow's going to be different. And babies, whoever has kids knows that they can sleep in all kinds of different positions. And so, the shadow was different. So, put a sinister spin on that, right? The photo. So the factual aspect was just ridiculous.
Well, you also have just the sensitivity of there's a dead baby. And
Yeah.
that just
Everything
gets everybody lit
Yeah.
up.
So they want to punish somebody, right? They want to put the blame on somebody. And that's of course you want justice for a baby that was killed, no doubt. But, there's a universe of bad things that happen for which the law doesn't have a remedy.
Christina did one of the bravest things, one of the most selfless things I've ever heard of. All the years I've been covering the courts and involved with this stuff. The father of the baby is black.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, if you go to trial, you're spending the rest of your life in prison. I got a shot. And she put it on herself. She steered everything that she could and eliminated everything that she could with anything to do with him. And she beat it. She beat it with Ryan. I was there the day that she walked out that front door, and that human being collapsed. The pins came out. She just fell straight to the floor like a rock.
4 years. They took her kids away. All this, right?
They took all the other.
They took her kids away from her. They had to stay with her sister. She lost her job. So her life she was on house arrest. Her life was taken away from her before she was found guilty of anything. So
she still has to mourn the loss of a baby too while she's going through
the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. What else can be worse, right? You lose your baby, and now you're accused of killing your baby, and then you have your kids taken away from you, and then everything just unravels.
The one thing that comes of all of this is this has everything to do. The experts, some of the experts were provided for by the Innocence Project. Right?
Yeah, that was huge.
But for them, she might be wearing a back number right now.
It's a very expensive case, as you can imagine. So, fortunately, they got involved, and this case was mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast as well. So, the Innocence Project from Arizona was able to donate about $30,000, which helped us get the expert that we needed. And I was able to get some money from the county because she didn't have any money.
Yeah, medical experts aren't cheap.
Yeah, one of them alone was $30,000.
So what was the prosecution? What were they sitting on? Just the fact that baby? There was some physical traits that they said, it's shaken baby. So did they just stand on a medical expert and say this must be the root cause, or?
That's a great question. It's a question.
Because like when you explain the fact pattern with the videotapes, it seems like there's a lot there, but it's not always that cut and clean in court.
No, and that's a question I asked myself and posed to the prosecutor many times. I'm like, what? I don't understand.
Why are you dragging this to where it is?
I don't see anything that shows that she's culpable of a crime, period. And this is not this report that we got, because this was on A&E, and then we had the dismissal and all that stuff. This report didn't just come out of the blue 2 weeks before that dismissal. I had this report a year before that, and I had told the DA on the case about that report, and I had given her that report. And I said to her, now, does this change your mind? No. They still believe their expert. So when you dig into it a little bit deeper, and I'll just talk to you just briefly about the factual aspect of it. Now that you look back, you can see the symptoms that this baby was gradually getting worse over time. And that's hard for a parent because it's hard to tell when your baby is cranky, whether they're just being cranky because they're a baby. They're not eating as much. They have acid reflux. They're not latching. There could be many different causes for these things, other than you saying to yourself, well, something really bad's happening to my baby here. He might be unresponsive tomorrow. But
you make excuses,
you don't think that way,
hoping
right?
for the
You're
best.
thinking, all right, let me take him to the pediatrician, and maybe it's acid reflux. And in fact, they had a doctor's appointment that day at 11 a.m. to address the sickle cell. So you're telling me, this is what I'm telling the DA, so you're telling me she had set up a doctor's appointment, she pumped the breast milk, with already knowing that she shook the baby so hard that to injure the baby, to kill the baby, right? Yeah, she wanted the baby dead, but she set up a doctor's appointment, and then she pumped breast milk to make sure the baby was fed. So none of it made any sense, and so I was just very frustrated with this one.
It's so much energy, because, as you say, because it's a baby. But in a lot of these cases, in these national cases that you see all across the country that these women are doing life for, when they see the baby, unlike this case, when they encounter the baby, they go back into the room and the baby's unresponsive. My baby is dying. They grab the baby. It's just a baby, but now it can't even hold its head up or anything. They have people running through the door, running out and banging heads. So it does look like there is, in fact, trauma involved. And those women are sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. There are dozens of them across the country, despite a mountain of evidence that it's just junk science.
And because of how far it got, I mean, you can't doubt that for the rest of her life she's going to live with some sort of, not only the trauma of it, but the lingering stereotype that follows it. Because there's always people that think, oh, even though she was innocent in court, no, there must have been something wrong.
Something precipitated
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because everybody's so used to, hearing the story of somebody, getting off on a technicality. So the hysteria of dead babies and stuff. So that's going to it's going to linger in her life forever.
It's a good point, because she did lose some of her friends. You find out who your real friends are.
Yeah. It's not like she gets out of that courthouse and life is back to normal. Exactly. No, she's got to really
One of the things that happens in these cases across the country is they need the husband to either appear as a witness or to stay out. Talk to her again, I'll indict you too. And these husbands leave their wives and never speak to them again. From the moment that they're subject to arrest, they ghost on them. Yeah. It's frightening, because they go, well, look what they're doing to her. Now they're going to do it to me, and then they're going to take kids away from me, and the kids are going to be raised alone. It's a horrible situation. Horrible situation. This is the level of sophistication of the cases that are involved. I know that a lot of people saw this case because there was a video component to it, and that was LaHayla Brewer. And if you think back, if you watch news in the last few weeks, and you saw there's a Ring camera and there's women running back and forth out the door, this is the case that we're talking about. And all of it is recorded except that moment at which the trigger is pulled. It's like a mystery. Tell us about the case. Tell us about the role that the cameras played in it, and your approach to the case, because the outcome was such that the surviving family was very angry that she got away with the sentence that she did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's interesting, and I guess not surprising that most cases that I have now are caught on camera. It's more common than you think.
They're everywhere.
You know, either an iPhone, but the majority of them are from houses. And sometimes they can line up this, and all the way down the street, right? What car it was and all that stuff. But I just want to mention that point. So the neighbor had a Ring camera, okay? And so what had happened with LaHayla's case was she was driving from Walmart after picking up dog food to her house. This is around 7 a.m. She sees two kids who she knows. The kid's father lives in her house. And she's met the kids. She's known them since they were babies. And she just pulls up and says, hey, you need a ride to school. I'll drop you off at school.
Being nice.
Yeah, being nice. One of them gets in the car, drops the kid off at school. The other one doesn't. 20 minutes later, Jamie chases the individual who got shot and killed. Pulls up to the house. This is caught on the camera, okay, in an aggressive manner. Her and her boyfriend, probably 6'2", 6'3", big boy. She goes up to the door. He opens the door. He's staying right here. She goes up, knocks on the door, rather bangs on the door like the police. LaHayla opens the door, and Jamie's yelling at her, "Stay the fuck away from my kids!" You know, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And LaHayla's, upset because she's accusing her of doing something, crazy. And then she's in her house now, and so Jamie pushes her. Gets in her house after LaHayla tries to shut the door. She puts her foot in the door, and she pushes her down on the floor. And then after she's in her house, and then she starts walking back to her car. And then what happens is, and this was the difficult part of the case for LaHayla, she goes inside, grabs a gun, comes back out, and stands on her yard. Okay, now Jamie's over by her car. She's getting ready to leave before LaHayla came out with the gun. So LaHayla obviously pissed off. You just got pushed down in your house, as anybody would be. Now, she didn't come out to kill anybody. She came out into the lawn to say, get the fuck off my property, stay off my property, don't come back on my property, all these things, right? Never pointed the gun at them. She's holding the gun down, and Jamie starts approaching her again. And here's the craziest thing about this case is that what happens is she has two dogs, LaHayla. They run out the front door, they jump into Jamie's car, and that's what causes LaHayla to go over to Jamie's car. But for those dogs running into the car, she would never went over there. And now there's this altercation with LaHayla trying to get the dogs out of the car. And now Jamie's yelling at her. Now you got the boyfriend right here. So she's trapped. But she's trapped between the door because you got Jamie right in front of her, and you got the big boyfriend to the left, and she's trapped. Now she's got a gun in her hand, and so there's arguing going on right there. And then
and LaHayla's tiny.
LaHayla's tiny, yeah, good point. She's like 5'2",
okay,
really tiny, and Jamie was like 5'11", ex-correctional officer. She was scared for her life. Jamie had grabbed her by the neck and sort of to kind of lift her up off the ground, and then you hear a gunshot. This is the only part that's not caught on camera because the door was open. So everybody's behind that back passenger right door. Everything else is on camera, though. You hear the shot, and immediately after the shot, she's screaming, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," which I thought was very, very important because now you have a situation of involuntary manslaughter. I didn't mean to, right? And we looked at self-defense too, getting picked up by the neck. But now you're in the position was I did mean to. I shot her because I was scared for my life. So there's a little bit of a mix here. You can be scared for your life. They're not mutually exclusive. You can be scared for your life, and the gun still goes off, not meaning to certainly hit her in the head, which this bullet did, and killed her. And so, that was the basic facts of the case, and ultimately they charged her with first-degree murder. We didn't feel it was that at all. We actually did a focus group for that case, and finally, after lots of negotiation, got it down to voluntary manslaughter. And she get 3 years. She got 3 years, yeah. So she's eligible for parole after 3 years.
I should mention we worked on that case with you, and we work with you on an ongoing basis. Jamie is towering over LaHayla, and LaHayla, this little tiny person, is also confronted by Jamie's boyfriend standing right next to her, and he doesn't have the cleanest record in the world.
No, I think he's in prison right now. So, he's a bad dude.
What do you think the sliding factor that worked against LaHayla was? Was it the fact that when she, probably not coming back out with the gun and sitting on her yard, but was it like going back to the car? Did that sort of like disavow the castle doctrine because now she's like maybe on the sidewalk and off? You know what I mean? Was there a part of that fact pattern, or do you think there was just where it kind of slipped against her?
The part that slipped against her was the gun.
Was the gun?
Yeah, because what was argued was that she could have just shut her door, called the police.
She would have been gone.
Jamie would have left.
Except
She would have came back.
that's
Yeah.
right. Jamie is not a stranger.
Yeah.
The father of her children lives in that home.
Oh yeah.
So she knows Jamie
coming
is
back.
coming back, and that's why she says, "Stay away from my house."
My eyes going getting the gun and standing on the yard is, don't do this. Like you just
Don't do this
attacked
again.
me in my own home. The next time you do this, I'm gonna defend myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that, and I get it 100%. You are protecting your property,
Yeah.
right? And you're allowed to do that if somebody is putting you in fear for your life. You're allowed to protect yourself. Talks about the castle doctrine. That's one of the biggest rules in the law, right? That's your castle, so to speak. This is what they called it back in the day. So I get why she did it 100%. But it was a freak accident because the dogs ran into the damn car.
Yeah.
She comes to
never went over there.
She comes to a complete stop, and the dog zooms right
She's
past.
yelling the dog's name. She's like, Harley, 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 trying to get her dogs out of the car. So she's not even paying attention to Jamie anymore. Not even paying attention, but Jamie comes around the car, and now she's trying to get the dogs. Now you got Jamie in her face. You got the big boyfriend right here who's like 6'3", standing to her left. She's trapped. She can't get out anywhere. Now there's one key witness, the lady up in her house on the second floor. And this is who corroborates after interviewing her that Jamie did in fact grab her by the neck and kind of pinned her up against the car. And then that's when the shot goes off. So she was an absolutely key witness that we told the judge about in sentencing.
Yeah.
So she played a big role too.
So, yet another case, and that will be a high-profile case. I'm guessing that's the Hankins case, which is also on video. Mm-hmm. And basically, you've got a boy up against what is essentially a man. And Hankins, we see it all on video, is backing up, trying to get away from this guy. He's moving backwards. I don't know how many steps, dozens of steps.
I think we counted 78. I have to go back and read.
Guy picks him up and throws him
like a rag doll.
Like an absolute rag doll. And then very methodically goes to tie him up on the ground when he is shot in the chest and killed. And this little kid is under him. He'd already displayed the gun. He'd done everything he could to get away from him. How did they charge that case, and where do you take it?
Well, they charged it under two theories. It's really only one. It's a first-degree murder. The premeditated aspect doesn't exist, but they're really going under the felony murder theory as if this was a planned robbery. Okay, and so that's their whole case. Their whole case is that this was a planned robbery. That's why Damon brought the gun. That's why he was ultimately shooting the gun to retain the property by use of force. Okay, the definition of part of robbery. But our position is that it wasn't a robbery. Okay, I had 3 on our team right now. We have 2 ex-homicide detectives, some of the best in the game that are retired. And then I had another one who's retired and was the most senior ranking homicide detective. Every single one of them looked at it and said, I would have never charged this case with murder. Every one of them. And so I have talked to the DA about this multiple times. They're giving us a deal that's just, we're not even in the same ballpark. They want him to plead guilty to robbery, involuntary manslaughter with use of a deadly weapon, and you're putting him in a position to get 8 to 20 years, 10 years.
Little tiny kid.
Yeah, he was 15 when this happened. So he goes over there. The gist of it is that he's going to buy vapes. 15-year-old kid getting some marijuana vapes. The guy who's selling it to him is 19. This is what he does. And so money is exchanged. This is the whole dilemma right here. Damon and another kid are pitching in to buy these vapes. Now, the bad part is, why does Damon have a gun? So stupid. I'm going to tell the jury it's stupid. So charge him with unlawful minor in possession of a firearm.
Charge him with being stupid.
Charge him with that. Don't charge him with murder. But in any event, the individual who gets killed, the whole robbery aspect starts because he says that Damon never gave him the money for the vapes. So here's what happened. They put the vapes on the table. There's an exchange of money between one individual and him. My client gave the money to that guy to give to the individual who gets shot, who was selling the vapes. So my guy's like, hey, I'm all good. I already pitched in, right? And so he walks out. He leaves. They all walk downstairs. It's all on camera in the parking lot. Everybody's cool. Everybody's fine, just hanging out. The individual who we believe was given the money takes off on his little push scooter.
Quickly.
He's the first one to leave the scene. And so once he leaves the scene, the individual, James, who was the one who gets killed, comes up to my guy and says, hey, give me the money. And he's like, what do you mean? I gave it to him to give to you. I'm not giving you any money. And he had money on him. My client had $200 or $300 on him. And he's like, no, I'm not giving you the money. And he's like, all right, well, give me the vapes back. No, I'm not giving you the vapes back. I just paid for them. Yeah. So Damon's probably, he was 100 pounds, 5'2", tiny, just a tiny, skinny little kid. The other guy's 175 pounds, 5'11", 19. He's the other kid, 15 is Damon.
Looks like a football player.
Yeah. And so what happens is the guy who thinks that Damon stole the vapes keeps approaching him. And this is where we count the steps, how many times he moved backwards. And then he gets against the gate of the apartment complex, and now he's got James and then another friend right here. So he tries to open the door. It's locked. And so he pulls out his gun and he keeps it at his side, basically like, get the fuck away from me. Like, get away, man. And then he puts it back down, and then he goes this direction, trying to walk away. This guy keeps pressing him. Then they get back into this other area, and he has to pull the gun out again. And this time he racks it, and then he puts it back. And then he walks trying to get away again. This guy will not let him leave. And so ultimately, the guy gets into a fighting stance, the individual who's killed. And so Damon, now he takes off, he runs. Yeah. He catches him within 3 seconds, grabs him, throws him like a rag doll, probably 3 feet in the air off the ground, flies into the bushes and the rocks. His phone flies out of his pocket. The vapes fly out of his pocket. This is all on video. And then James is on top of him, where literally my client's, Damon's legs are just kind of skyrocketed right up into the air, and you can't see what's going on in between here.
The struggle.
And so what's happening is Damon says, he's going for the gun. You don't know you don't have time to think to yourself, all right, well, am I acting in self-defense? Should I let him take the gun or not let him take the gun? So he shoots the gun. The gun goes off, and then James falls off him. So the gun took him off of him. Did he know that he killed him? No. He ran right after that. So they're going to try to use that against us, of course, that he fled. But he didn't look back and say to himself, well, he's dead for sure. Yeah. Right? Now they're going to say, well, you could have stayed, call 911, all this stuff. But you're talking about a 15-year-old who just killed somebody who's going to be scared.
And who was just attacked.
Who was just
Yeah.
attacked. And so the whole spin on it is that, no, it wasn't, he robbed him because he didn't give him the money, and he used the gun to retain the property. And that's why James kept approaching him to say, give it back to me. He's like, no, I'm not giving it back to you. Here's my gun. All right, I'm going to shoot you if you, I'm going to shoot you for you trying to take this property. So that's the gist of it. That trial's set for December 11th.
Coming right up. We one more, and then we've got to wrap pretty quick, and that is, you've written a book.
Yeah.
Tell me about the book.
It's called The Defense Begins, and it's on Amazon right now. It is a roadmap through the Nevada criminal justice system for the accused and their families. So what I do is kind of take them down a yellow brick road, so to speak, of how the process starts, what things that they can expect, what they mean. Because a lot of these people, the majority that you represent, have no clue what goes on through the process of a criminal case, or what a preliminary hearing means, or what a grand jury means, or what this hearing means, or what this motion means. And certainly the family doesn't either. So they have all these questions, right? And so I wanted to lay it out for them in a easy to read fashion, and give it to the family, and give it to the person who's being charged with the crime. And it's very helpful.
No surprises.
No surprises, so they know. And then they can also have a more, whether they hire me or not, they can have a more informative conversation with their attorney, because when their attorney says, hey, we got this preliminary hearing coming up, oh, hey, I know what a preliminary hearing is. Or I'm filing this motion on your behalf. Okay, I know what that is, right? And so they can, you being able to communicate with your client, and the more that they know is better for you, because their input is extremely valuable to you as their lawyer.
How many people get interviewed in prison and they say, what happened? And they go, it was all a blur. I don't know. I have no idea, because they have no idea the way the system works.
Exactly. Yeah, multiple times.
And with that, we call it a day. The Vegas Legal Magazine podcast. I want to thank you, Ryan Helmick of the defense, for great work, man. Great working with you.